Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Do you remember this? I've just put a video up for how to convert it to radar controlled, and I've done a little maiden flight, and it was very wobbly, and it got me thinking what's going on. And so a bit of investigation. On the Stick and Tissue Facebook page, I asked what this model was, and we soon learnt that it was a KeilKraft Cub and fuselage, and then the tail surfaces were from KeilKraft Wisp. Little bit of I printed out the plan on AutoZone for the KeilKraft Cub and found out that in fact it was much smaller than this so-called Cub, and it wasn't this Cub. Beg pardon, this isn't a Cub, it's a Cadet, the Cub's big brother. The Cub's 20 inch, the Cadet is 30 inch. So it's got the Wisp 20 inch wingspan and tail, which I've now stuck on, of course, so I can't change that. I've downloaded the plan from AutoZone for the Cadet, and I'm going to make a new wing. But I can't make it full size wing because the tail area is about a quarter less than the Cadet. So I've got to make the wing a little bit less as well, else it's going to be undertailed, should we call it. The area for the tailplane is going to be a little bit light, and the fin and rudder is even smaller. I might have to add something in front of that somehow. So I'm going to make a new wing. I'm not going to put the dihedral on that the plan suggests. I think it was 2.5, something like that. Because I don't know, I think that might have been helping. Well, the rudder was very powerful as it was with that much dihedral, so I can get away with less, and less wingspan, make it 20 to 30, it'll be about 26, 25, something like that. So I've got the plan on the bench, and I'm going to build one. Let me show you what I'm doing. And I've respaced the ribs to bring them in a little bit, so I'm going to be about 3.25 inches less wingspan each side. In fact, the dihedral is 2 5/8, so that's quite high, and I'm not going to go that high. The only thing I haven't found actually is D, which I guess stands for dihedral brace. There's 3. It's no big deal. I can make some to the dihedral because obviously they're set for that bigger dihedral, so I'll do those when I've got the wing panels made up. Got a nice thick bit of plastic. I'm going to lay over the plan, stop things sticking. So let's just pop those down with drawing pins. Nice long thin wing. It's pretty. All the ribs are the same size except for W1, which is a little bit shorter and modified to take account of the dihedral braces, and the very tip ones, which are W3, which is a little bit shorter. Anyway, I've just drawn up and lasered out a load of W2s, so they're 16th, and then I've got a piece of 3/32 Balsa for the lower spar, and for the upper spar, and they'll just fit in there, and the bottom one in there. So what I'm going to do is, well, I'll tell you what, should we start with the bottom spar? They're both about the same actually. I'll start with the bottom one. I'll come in a bit. That goes all the way up to W5. I've also printed out some, or lasered out some wingtip parts. If you're wondering what I use, I just download the plan from AutoZone, import it into Lightburn, which is my laser software, and basically trace it in Lightburn and laser it. So that's going to go in there. It's got a bit of a unsquare end. Actually, that's not going to go in there. The wingtip is going to be a lot shorter. It's going to come right in. So actually, let's get these wingtip parts out a minute. I've also treated myself to a bit of trailing edge section here, 3/8 by 3/32, although it looks like it's 3/8 by 1/8. It's just in my stash. Right, now these are like that, and then like that. Is it like that? It is like that. Why is that? Oh, it's upside down. I was wondering why it's such a lousy fit. And then W6 is that one there. Goes on there like that. And this joint is overlapped by W7, a little wingtip part, which I may or may not make. I might just bring the top spar straight down onto it. So what I could do actually is to glue these pieces up, and then I can get them into position on the plan, because it's going to help me position the last rib, which I haven't drawn in, so yeah, that'll help. Let's just put a couple of pins. I'm just using this as a way to get everything nice and in place. I think I'll just CA those, allow me to crack on. Let's put lots on though, because it's end grain, so I'm going to flood it on a bit. Okay, speed building at its finest. So that one is going to come down here like that. That last rib like that there. So you can see how much smaller the wingspan is. So I'm just going to put that in place. I'm going to end up with a very similar wing area to what I've already got on the 20-inch wing. But the difference is, well, slightly bigger than this, but the difference is it's going to be obviously constant chord. And so I've got a bit more wing area. As you can see, it's going to be this much more, and less dihedral. So it is worth building another wing. Whether I pick up the pattern on that or not, I'm not sure yet. See how we get on. Let's just put a pin in there. Okay, that's good. I'll just put this one together, be right back. Like that. I'll have to trim this off here, change the design slightly. No, the rib's there. What am I talking about? That rib butts up to there. Should butt up to there. Slightly short, so I go. Got to cut a W3 to go in there, so I'm going to cut this rib down. It's going to go in there. Let's just put that bottom spar in now. I've got to split it here to get my dihedral in, so but I'll build it as one piece for now. If I CA that in there, bring that across to here, just trim that to fit. Okay, and then I can put these ribs down into position. The leading edge is a piece of 1/8 set at an angle like bird turf in there. Speed building. Bit on the side, bit on the side, bit on the end. Keep it flat while it dries. You can't go far wrong then. Okay, now I'm going to leave W1 out for the minute. W2, here's my new drawn positions. And I'm just checking. Yeah, I didn't realise when I cut the ribs I thought it was butted onto the trailing edge, but it is let in, but there isn't a dotted line on there. Should have studied the plan better. So the ribs are only long enough to butt onto the trailing edge, which I'm afraid is going to have to do. I could always run some little miniature gussets down just to make it a stronger joint. So don't forget, I put in these ribs where my pencil lines are. Before I put them in, actually, if I'm going to use a piece of 1/8 for the top, it might be an idea to stack them together and just sand that top slot to 1/8. How many do I need? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and possibly 7, 8, 7, 14 in all. It's not a bad idea to have a slightly bigger main spar at the top because the model is double the weight it was designed to be. It weighs 2 ounces instead of 1 ounce due to the radio gear. So you just get something suitable there to make that slot a little bit, just a little bit wider, not a lot, nearly there, bear with. It's tight on all of the ribs, but singly they go in okay, so let's call that done. And I'm going to put in one there. 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 And these I'll just cut down at the back a little bit to get it in there. Okay, I've got, yep, one more goes here, and then I'll keep these two for the center. Okay, let's just offer up that trailing edge piece a minute. Might help to line the back of the ribs up. Trailing edge section, by the way, has got one 90-degree bend, and this one's a little bit less or a little bit more, whichever way you look at it. So make sure the 90-degree bend is facing the rib and not facing the sky. You know what I mean? The other thing I'm going to check is it nice and straight? Okay, so that's going to go from there to there. Put quite a lot on because I want it to soak in a little bit, not disappear, if you know what I mean. It is laying quite nicely flat, but I'm going to put a pin into it to make sure. I think it might be easier if I just CA it and then it's in and done. I can't really put a pin through it, can I? I can put it at an angle, it'll hold it there. That's okay. And I'll just run some CA in. Try and keep them upright and on line. Like that. Just run some CA in around those joints. Just going to press it down to make sure things are in place. These capillaries get blocked. When they do, easiest thing to do is just to cut the end off and you've got a nice new end. It will wick its way right in to the trailing edge, and I'll come round to the rib the other side in a minute. As long as it's held flat. Now I'm just going to work my way back down, putting CA on this side of the rib because it's such a good fit that it hasn't actually whipped through very much, which is a good sign. Okay, it's coming along nicely. Now I can cut the top spar in there. And there is a piece of wood showing here tapering down. I don't think that's needed, to be honest. I shall taper the top spar down, just like that. I'll cut at an angle and we'll see how it looks. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do is just put a small notch on the inside of this, just to allow it to crack over that rib, and it will have glue in it, so it will be okay to maintain its strength. Right, and then cut that to there. I'm going to trim it on the inside there, and I'm going to taper it down, so I've just got to lift it out again. Put a small notch in there. Okay, there we are. We can now fit the top main spar. It just cracks down into there. Okie doke. And you know what I'm going to do, don't you? I'm going to actually lift this end one out because I want to make sure there's plenty of glue in that crack. Like that. Drop it back down. Put a load of CA in there. Hold it for a second. Keep it flat. I'm just going to work my way down, just stroking it on all four sides, making sure it's fully down and everything is as flat as it can be. Finally, the end bit. I use the bottle instead of my fingers sometimes. Okay, this is coming on very nicely. Actually, I've just remembered that piece of 1/8 was the lead and edge piece. Okay, let's see if I got some more. Here's a nice hard piece. So that's going to go in the bird tooth there, like that. Just like that, all the way down. The pins are going to dent the corner of the wood, but it won't matter because it's got to be sanded into a nice sort of round section a bit, so it's not too worried. Actually, I quite like this method of leading edge because it gives you more surface area to glue it to, and it just seems to be a lot stronger than just sort of button it on like I have with the trailing edge rather. Again, I'll turn it over and do the bottom bird tooth. When I take it off the board, holding that nice and flat for a second while it dries. Right, that's all I can do for tonight. When the white glue is dried on this section here, I can lift it off. In fact, what I'll probably do is to saw through here first before I take it off the board, because I've got a nice centre line to work to. Could do that now. Also trim these to length, can't I? Trim them off because they'll only get in the way and probably snap. Now this wants to be cut there, right down the middle of that centre line. Like that. So now I've got two halves of the wings. I'm going to make the dihedral braces here out of thin strips of plywood. We'll stop there tonight, I think, guys, and lift it off tomorrow, and I'll put the CA under the bottom sides and make some dihedral braces. Okay, see you then. Okay, a few hours have passed. Hold it down as you pull it off. I have done one little thing off camera, and that was just to add gussets, like I mentioned I might do, in the corner of these ribs. Sometimes you find CA sticks to plastic, sometimes it doesn't, depends on the plastic. This is one it sticks to. How does that compare to the other wing? So I'll thread up. So you can see it's bigger area, but not massively so, but enough to make a difference to the wing loading as well. It will go down slightly. I haven't lost too much of it over the span, but I had to make it smaller to help compensate for the smaller tail area. And I should put less dihedral in it. I should probably put in something like that as opposed to that. What I'm going to do now is to bring this up. I'm going to sand an angle on all the ends quite easily and measure up for some dihedral braces. So I've made a bit of progress, guys. I have put little cap strips on the top, 1mm wood, 1/32 in English, and I've just put a little bit on the top of the main spar to bring it up to the same height. Just sanded the edges roughly for the minute. I've joined them together. A little tip I can give you, actually, to make a nice join on the back, take each wing panel, prop it up at the required angle so the edge is hanging over, and then sand vertically, and you get the perfect on both wings. Then when you come to put them together, you've got the perfect butt join each side. But if you sand it while it's at the angle it needs to be, then it has to be vertical, and it works out really well. I've also made some little dihedral braces out of 1/32 ply. Put one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, and one at the back, so it's really strong. And I thought, just for good measure, I would just sheet this centre section with 1/32 because the bands are going over and they're going to cut into it, so it may as well be sheeted. And you know, although yes, weight is an issue, I don't think it's a huge issue on a model like this. Yeah, 7/8 is going to be okay. Got to cut it into a slight curve because as it goes round it changes the shape, and annoyingly it's just short of the end, so I'll have to just glue a little bit on the end of that. But I'm just going to cut a curve into this. What I'll do is just hold it there like that, put a bit of glue CA on there like that, just bring it down, so it'll glue there, and I can turn it over and glue it from the inside. Okay, make sure that's pressed down firmly. I'll do the other side. Nice and simple. This is the final bit of wood to go on here now. Notice how I keep putting it back down on the flat as it sets. Got to keep things flat. And keep the blade moving on here because it's got CA on the surface, and if I stop it, it'll glue to it. When I say blade, I mean back of the handle. Okay, I think that is down just as well. Very nice. So I've got some, this is very slightly thinner wood. Don't like that. Look at that, couldn't have done that if I tried. So I'm just going to cut a sliver off of here. 5mm. Right, run a little glue on the back, and that's that done. In fact, there is one more bit which is discretionary, but I think I'll have a look at it anyway with a view to fitting it, and that is on the front of the, well, just behind the cockpit on the front of the leading edge. Let's just offer it up. Look, the plan says filled with scrap. Look at that, it's nice. This area here, doesn't that look nice? I know the tailplane's angular, not rounded, but I think that looks much nicer, more vintage than the angular wing. Yeah, so am I going to fill that little gap? Of course I am. How do I fill it? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe just a semicircle of wood would do it. That's the sort of thing I'm thinking of. Look. Got to trim the back edge a bit. Let's give that a go. Something like that even would suffice. Okay guys, a little summing up before I start the covering. It's all sanded and ready for covering, but I've just weighed it. It's 0.4 of a gram heavier than the finished wing on this one, so it will put a little bit of weight on. It's currently 12.5 grams. This one's 8.5 grams. So it's 4 grams odd lighter. But as you can see, the dihedral is less. Can't go too mad, of course. And the wing area is considerably more, well, considerably, but not as much as the original Cadet, because I've got a smaller tailplane on and it's already fixed. So, yeah, there, it does sit there very nicely. The ribs sit on the side of the fuselage very nicely. So she's now ready for covering. I think that looks rather nice actually. The wingtips certainly look nicer. Now I've got that on, it's a much nicer looking aeroplane than that. It's the wrong wing. The wrong wing. So I'm going to get out the doculum and cover it, and then decide if I'm going to do yellow wings with red stripes or red wings with yellow stripes. Okay, see you later.